The Sierra Halseth and Aaron Guerrero case is a high-profile criminal investigation involving two teenagers from Las Vegas, Nevada. This case, which gained significant media attention, revolves around a gruesome crime that shocked the local community and the nation. Sierra Halseth and Aaron Guerrero, both minors at the time of the incident, have been accused of a heinous act of violence. Daniel Wendell Halseth, born in Estacada, Oregon, on January 28, 1976, the beloved son of Wendell and Christine Halseth. Daniel was raised on a farm, and for a long time, while there was a negative presence of alcohol, there was also a lot of love to go around for everyone. He spent most of his young adult life without his father, who died in 1994. His dad, who passed away right before Daniel graduated from high school, died suddenly from a brain aneurysm. Halseth excelled in anything related to computers or technology and was active in both music and church activities. In 2000, Daniel and his future wife, Elizabeth, met. At the time, Daniel was attending Western Oregon University. He earned his bachelor's degree in music and later got his master's in business. Elizabeth grew up in a verbally abusive family, but did well as both a model and as a member of JROTC. The two of them seemed like they had overcome some difficulties to do well for themselves. The two seemed like the all-American couple. Later, after having 3 children, Daniel found work in Las Vegas, so the young family moved to Nevada. Soon thereafter, Elizabeth Halseth, behind the strength of her husband's computer prowess, surprised all of Nevada when she was elected to the state Senate. In 2010, Elizabeth upset then-incumbent Senator Dennis Nolan in Senate District 9. Running a campaign that was heavy on family and morality, was tagged by the Republican Party as a future superstar. Through it all, sources confirmed Daniel Halseth kept the fort down. While Elizabeth was in Carson City being a senator, Daniel was at home with their 3 kids. In between being a father and working his tail off, things were looking really good for their family. But their perfect little world was about to come crumbling down. Daniel Halseth started noticing strange behavior from his wife. He noticed that his wife would spend a lot of time texting a man named Tiger Hegelian, former golf professional, now real estate salesman. Daniel wanted to save the marriage, so they tried counseling, but it did not work. On October 21st, Daniel Halseth was arrested for an alleged domestic dispute involving his wife. 8 hours after his arrest, he was charged with open and gross lewdness. In the police report, Daniel accused his wife of having an affair, while she acknowledged that they were having marital problems. The police arrested Daniel because Elizabeth accused him of touching her inappropriately during an argument about the affair. Daniel denies that allegation. According to the Las Vegas criminal defense blog, that open and gross lewdness is one of the more frequently falsely accused offenses because police don't need physical proof to make an arrest. It turns out Daniel Halseth was right. His wife was having an affair with former golf professional, now real estate salesman, Tiger Hegelian. Daniel was devastated. In November 2011, Daniel Halseth filed for divorce. In the past, the two were seen together at top political functions, and Daniel was well received by some of the top Republicans in the U.S. After the allegations went public, Elizabeth was receiving tons of backlash. Her career is over, stated one political insider, who asked to remain anonymous because of the sensitive nature of the case. She was a rising star who selfishly destroyed a very promising family and career. Elizabeth announced her resignation from office on February 17, 2012. In the meantime, Daniel Halseth tries to repair his life. He still is dealing with the after effects of the malicious criminal charges, and the two of them are haggling over child custody issues, custody of their 3 children being granted to Elizabeth. Elizabeth moved to Alaska with the kids to live with Tiger Hegelian. Daniel was devastated. For the last few years, Daniel was the primary caregiver, waking up every day to the sounds of his children, and now that was gone. And now they also live miles away, but Daniel began fighting to regain custody of his children, and he threw himself into his work. Daniel had gotten a new job and moved to Texas, and his social media page is filled with affirmations and more inspirational quotes. Daniel wrote that he loved fitness, music, and making a difference out there. He really tried to stay positive despite dealing with so much. Eventually, Daniel would meet another woman named Bogdana, and they would actually get married. And when that happened, it seemed like to friends and family, Daniel was getting himself back on track. But even with this positive attitude and optimistic outlook on life, Daniel was dealt with another difficult blow. Within 2019, his marriage with Bogdana had ended. But Daniel kept his positive attitude and kept posting uplifting quotes, but you can feel a sense of sadness knowing the hardships Daniel was going through. In March 2020, Daniel had business in Las Vegas. He stayed with a friend named Peggy Newman, and also by 2020, Elizabeth had remarried and moved back to Las Vegas with the kids. And this was great news for Daniel because he is now able to see his kids. And as soon as they were back, Daniel was so excited to spend time with them. His youngest daughter, Sierra, spent so much time with Daniel. It was if she had moved in with Daniel, even though legally she could not because she was still a minor, and Elizabeth was not happy with this. But Daniel confided in Peggy that Sierra had sent him odd messages about how she was scared and uncomfortable living with her mother, even though there was never any evidence that Sierra had been mistreated in her mother's house. Sierra also made the decision that she didn't want to return to her mother's house. Daniel petitioned the court for full custody of Sierra. Daniel rented a house from his friend Peggy and moved in with Sierra. During the custody hearing, things would get pretty heated with Daniel and Elizabeth, but at the end, Daniel had been told to return Sierra to her mother's house. But on endless nights, Sierra would run away and go back to Daniel's. On April 7th, 2021, Daniel posted a photo of a billboard on his way home from the airport. He had returned from a business trip to Boston, and one evening a few hundreds of dollars was withdrawn from a joint bank account of Bogdana, Daniel's second ex-wife, married to him for 7 years before a 2019 divorce, still shared with him. Knowing this was not typically an action done by Daniel, Bogdana texted Daniel to no avail, investigators wrote in the report. Bogdana attempted to call Daniel. Again, no response. Next, Halseth's mother tried contacting her son. When he didn't answer, she called Sierra, who told her grandmother that her father's phone was broken. This still didn't sit right with Daniel's mother. She just had this odd feeling something was wrong, but she decided not to worry and wait to hear back from Daniel. By 10 a.m. the next day, there was still no word from Daniel. His mother again called Sierra, demanding to speak to Daniel, but she claimed he was in the shower, records show. When her grandmother threatened to call the police, Sierra hung up. Now worry is really starting to set in on Daniel's mom, Christine. Christine contacted Peggy Newman, Daniel's friend and landlord. Peggy told Christine that she was in the middle of running some errands, but as soon as she's done, she would head right over to check on Daniel. But anxiety and worry filled Christine's mind, and that fact she didn't know what was going on, and could no longer wait for Peggy. She called the police to do a welfare check on Daniel.
How may I help you?
Yeah, hi, I need a welfare check. I don't know if
on who are we doing a welfare check?
for my son. He's been missing for 2 days. His work's called, his family's called, I've called, his ex-wife's called, and there's nobody answering the phone, and there's nothing. Nobody can get a hold of him, and then his work called, and they can't get a hold of him, and it's really, he just doesn't act like this.
Okay. Does he live alone?
He lives with his 16-year-old daughter, who is not answering the phone.
Okay.
Or replying to a text.
Mm-hmm.
And the weird part is, I'll just tell you this, there's been ATM withdrawals at 3 different ATMs.
And Peggy would actually be pulling up to Daniel's house shortly after Christine gotten off the 911 call. Peggy and her friend Joey went to Daniel's house. Christine had notified Sierra that Peggy and Joey would be coming over. The door to the house was left unlocked. The house was filled with smoke, and what Peggy seen absolutely terrified her. She ran out the house and called 911.
911 emergency, Guerrero 16497. Do you need police, fire, or medical?
Oh my God, 8417 Dumpsy Court. 8417 Dumpsy Court.
Do you need police, fire, or medical?
There was a fire, and we went in to investigate. The fire must be a couple of days old, but there's a dead body in the garage. We just found him with the homeowner that doesn't live here.
Okay, and you're in there right now?
Firefighters responded to the home on the 8,400 block of Dunphy Court. They entered the home and made their way to the garage, where the smoke was billowing from. There was a small fire which was extinguished. As soon as the flames were tamed, the firefighters recoiled in horror to find the lifeless body of a man. It was Daniel. They could immediately see that the fire was not the cause of his death. He had sharp force injuries to his head, neck, and torso. There had also been an attempt to dismember his body. The fire had then been set in an attempt to conceal the murder. But investigators were stuck with the question of why. And where's Sierra? Is she okay? No one was prepared for the terrifying truth behind Daniel's murder. Investigators looked into Daniel's debit card transactions 24 hours before they found his body, and they spotted two individuals on camera withdrawing money from several ATMs, and also spotted them walking into a store and then leaving with a few items using Daniel's debit card. And these two individuals drove back to Daniel's home, and next day morning, surveillance footage captured a Nissan matching the description of Daniel Halseth's car leaving Vegas, 3 hours before Daniel's body was discovered. But on the 13th of April, the couple were stopped by transit officers in Salt Lake City after they got off a light rail the downtown area without paying for tickets. The officer ran a background check and discovered that they were wanted for murder in Las Vegas. They immediately called police, who arrested the couple on the spot. They eventually tracked down the couple's car, where they discovered a bloody rug. When the cell phone was examined, they found the incriminating video, which was essentially a confession.
Welcome back to our YouTube channel. Day 3 after murdering somebody.
Whoa! Don't put that on the camera.
It was worth it. Yeah.
So yeah.
The two you just seen in the video was none other than Daniel's youngest daughter, Sierra Halseth, and her boyfriend, Aaron Guerrero. Shortly before Daniel was murdered, he had shared his displeasure at the relationship between his 16-year-old daughter, Sierra, and her 18-year-old boyfriend, Aaron Guerrero. The young couple had been dating since June of 2020, and they had recently just begun plotting to rob their parents and run away to Los Angeles. However, Daniel caught wind of the grim plan and forbid Sierra from seeing Aaron. Undeterred, the couple began plotting something much more sinister. The evidence suggested that Daniel had been attacked while he was on the couch in the living room. He had been stabbed and slashed over 70 times by his own daughter, someone he loved and would never think would want to harm him. In the pre-dawn hours of April 8, 2021, Aaron ran away from home. Over the next couple of hours, he and Sierra purchased a chainsaw and a circular saw, as well as a handsaw and lighter fluid. They also bought disposable gloves and a drop cloth. Sierra and Aaron then stole more than $1,300 from the account that Daniel shared with his ex-wife. There were several mops found, and several cleaning agents found around the house. A table saw, chainsaw, and blades were all found inside the house. The police also found several receipts. One of the receipts was from Bank of America. On the surveillance footage, Sierra could be seen driving Daniel's car. She withdrew about $600 on April 8th. Aaron Guerrero was seen sitting in the passenger seat next to her. The other receipts were from Home Depot and Winco Foods. Aaron was seen on the surveillance footage at Home Depot. Aaron purchased the saws and blades found inside the home. Sierra purchased several bottles of bleach from Winco around 2:50 a.m. on April 8th. Sierra's DNA had been found on one of the knives that had been used to stab Daniel. Aaron's DNA had been found on the other. Their original plan had been to dismember Daniel. One of his wrists was partially dismembered. but Sierra had been notified that her grandmother was going to call the police. They panicked and tried to set the house on fire. No soot was found in Daniel's lungs. He was dead before the fire had been set. Afterwards, the couple stole some money and his car before fleeing to Salt Lake City, where they would be later found by the authorities. In Las Vegas, a teenager aged 16 years old or older is automatically charged as an adult. The couple were extradited to Clark County, where they were both charged with Daniel's murder, as well as conspiracy, arson, robbery, and fraudulent use of a credit card. After the charges were filed, Daniel's family released a statement which read, "Daniel Halseth was first and foremost a loving father, brother, and son, who was the heart of the Halseth family. To have him taken from us in such a horrific, savage, senseless, and violent act of murder leaves us heartbroken, and our grief is unyielding. The total lack of remorse on display in the video is both reprehensible and unforgivable. While we are grateful for the work of the detective and the district attorney, we are waiting for justice to be served with the maximum accountability allowed." Sierra and Aaron subsequently pleaded not guilty to the murder of Daniel, but in May of 2022, they appeared in court where they changed their pleas from not guilty to guilty. They pleaded guilty to 9 counts, including murder, arson, and robbery. The couple were sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 22 years.
Okay. Ms. Halseth, what, if anything, would you like to say before I pronounce sentencing on this? You can give your letter.
Your Honor, my biological father has traumatized me, trauma that I still have to work through every day. I've never had any problems, and I've always been a positive influence among my peers and adults. I was always sure of myself and would work hard and passionately. But when my biological father took control of my life, I've never felt so lost, hurt, and so very confused. Everything I knew was taken away from me. I miss my family and friends, but he didn't allow me to contact them. They were bad people, and that I need to do better. My biological father abused and neglected me. Not only did he hit me and put his hands on me, but he shaved me, touched me, sexualized me, molested me, slapped me, kissed me, as well as letting others do the same. He sexually harassed and abused me. Sometimes I would just be laying in bed and he would barge in and jump on top of me and just lie there. He would slam my door open, yell at me, then walk away. He degraded me constantly. He was a very vulgar and sexual guy. He would also whisper in my ear loud, forcefully. He would tickle me so much to the point where I wasn't laughing, and I told him to stop over and over. He liked to massage me. Once he was editing pictures of this girl that was 98% nude. He told me to stay with him in the room until he was done. He wanted me to look at this girl. He said, "This is how it's done, and you want your boyfriends to see you this way." I told him I was asexual and that I prefer girls, but he said that's all a lie. You're too young to understand any of that. He commented on my appearance a lot. Be more revealing, be sexy. He would make fun of my baggy clothes and say I looked homeless. He asked for that same girl to let me use some of her clothes and outfits to be more of a woman. He took pictures and videos of me when I told him no or that it made me uncomfortable. As for Joey, a friend of my biological father, I told him that Joey was being sexual with me too, but he said it was because I was tempting him. I showed him the text messages between Joey and me, where Joey had said he was masturbating to me and was asking for voice messages from me, saying things that he wanted me to say and how he wanted me to say it. In those text messages, I told him, "No, or please stop, I don't want this," or I would make excuses that my voice message wouldn't work. My biological father just laughed and blamed it on me again. I told him about it a second time a few months later, in front of a girl that was living with us, and that's when he pretended to be concerned and said, "Honey, why didn't you tell your father about this?" He used me for attention a lot. My biological father knew there was something going on with Joey and me. He also knew that he was a drug addict and a pedophile. He joked about it and normalized it too. Sometimes when Joey and I were alone together, my biological father would call me beforehand. "Oh, make sure he doesn't try to have sex with you," in a joking manner. Another time, my biological father and me were driving in his car, and the AC was broken, so it was very hot. He said it's so hot I feel Joey playing with himself. He encouraged Joey to do things like buy me ice cream and take care of me. He forced us both to drink with him. One night, my biological father invited Joey over for a drink. He wanted Joey to stay the night, but Joey was freaking out and insisted he go back to Peggy's because he strongly believed he would rape me if he were to stay. He was persistent in telling my biological father that, but the response was all, listen, don't be weak now, Joey. Don't be tempted. Look at her, you won't hurt her. Be a man, sleep with me, not my daughter. You won't do anything. Listen, no, listen. He kept getting in Joey's face and knocking him in place, convincing him to stay. There were many other times. Just about everybody knew there was something going on, or was suspicious of Joey doing things to me. He was doing things to me. He always had plenty of opportunities. He would come over to my house alone and he would drive me places alone too. He would do many things to me in front of my biological father, but he just pretended like he didn't see anything. I was 15. He let guys cut my hair also. I would cry, but he said, honey, it's all dead hair, it's all dead. It doesn't mean anything. Sometimes Aaron's actions reminded me of my father. When it comes to substances, I am no fan. I wanted to be clean and develop well, but my biological father wanted me to drink. I would have a cup nearby to me. He would keep refilling it with alcohol for me to drink. I told him I couldn't swallow, that it hurt, or I don't want it. I want to spit it out. He would grab me and yell at me every time. Come on, daughter, swallow. It's not bad. Don't be weak. Come on, suck it up. Swallow my dada. Do it, do it. He would start screaming. I felt like puking often. He said, keep it in, daughter. Hold it in. The times when I couldn't or spit it out, he would call me weak and or make me try again until I got it right, or just walk away. We would go to the store sometimes where he would buy alcohol. He said he wanted me to try this one and that one and handed me the bottle. I said, am I supposed to be holding this? He said, oh daughter, why are you holding that? I'll make sure the camera doesn't see. My biological father abused drugs and alcohol. He forced others to drink, but on his own. It was scary to me. He drank heavily every day. He would come home drunk and that's when he's most aggressive. He locks me in place and starts pushing me and hitting me around. He gets angry with me about things that happened at work or people that upset him or that he's jealous of. He would take everything in his life out on me, forcing it into me. He pushed me in a pool one time when he was so drunk, talking about how my mom and him met, which brings me to his stalking. I saw how he treated women. He dated a lot of them, married a few, cheated on each of them, and then stalked them physically, online, etc. Sometimes I would get panic or anxiety attacks, but he told me that I was pretending. He didn't want me to go to school, he said truancy. He said I can teach it better than school can. I think he has schizophrenia. He also acts like Jim Carrey in the movies. He ignored the rules. He would tell me all about custody, court, and say, this is what we want, this is what we don't want. Sometimes I wondered, is any of this normal? My biological father encouraged illegal activity. He said it was okay, and it's okay because your dad is here, and it's okay because your dad knows about it. A few years ago, he was arrested and convicted for battery, coercion, and open and gross lewdness. I saw he was usually and often involved with the police. Police showed up on him many times. I saw it when I was younger, and as I was growing up too. I saw how he manipulated the officers, how he lied and made up stories, and not give all the details, wanting more to look on a piece of paper, etc. Lastly, the only time CPS was ever involved with my family was with my biological father. When CPS was involved, he would always monitor and or tell me what to say. He told me to hide the alcohol and clean up. When CPS did come by in person, he was sometimes out of state, leaving me all alone in the house for weeks and months on end, sometimes with random strangers coming by, or even living with me. There was never food in the house, and he refused to pay the bills, and the AC wasn't working. He gave multiple people keys to the house. He told me that my mom was the one doing things wrong, and that I was ungrateful. He lied to his family, friends, and random strangers about his life, and how my mom was a terrible person, and that he was a great father. My biological father has traumatized my siblings, me, and the rest of my family. He terrorized all of us, and has left permanent scars in our hearts and lives for many women too. Thank you.
Good. Mr. Sanford, anything you would say before I pronounce it?
Your Honor, if the court is inclined to follow the terms as specified in the settlement contract.
I am. Okay. Mr. Guerrero, what, if anything, would you like to say before I pronounce sentence against you?
To the Halseth family, I'd like to start off by saying I'm sorry for what I did. I was a kid who made a huge mistake, the biggest of many that I can't take back. Wish every day, single day that I could give my life to bring his back. I wish I could do something for those who loved him, to stop their suffering and wanting. The same way I would suffer if someone was taken from me that I love. My only hope now is that the Halseth family finds a way to forgive me. He did not deserve to pass in such a horrible way. He was a way better man than I'll ever be. I ask for your forgiveness as I get sentenced today, and I hope it brings you a little peace. I want these years to repent and endure the consequences of my actions. So when I might get the chance of release one day, I'll be able to say I learned my lesson. That's all I would like to say. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Christine Ellen Halseth. And spell it?
It's okay, ma'am, we got it.
Okay.
It's okay. What would you like to tell me today?
First off, thank you, Your Honor, for giving us your time to express the impact of my son's brutal murder has had on... I'm really shook, sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
As the impact my son's brutal murder has had on countless family and friends. Grief takes on many shapes: shock, dismay, disbelief, agony, outrage, vengeance, depression, paralysis, despair. And it's hard to give them all a voice in a statement such as this. At various times since April 9th, 2021, each of these has had a voice in my mind for various lengths of time, sometimes alone, sometimes in pairs, and sometimes in unison. But today, let me just speak as the mom of a murdered son, as the son of my beloved son, Daniel Halseth, on my piano, a piano my son who plays since he was a young boy, sits a box full of hundreds of cards, sympathy cards, that I cannot bear to open. I know what they will say. They will tell their stories of how he impacted their lives, how he encouraged and prayed for their success. He spoke sincerely, with compassion and encouragement. Daniel's entire life was dedicated to helping people and being of service to anyone he came across. He spent time with the homeless, spent countless hours with veterans suffering from PTSD. When anyone needed a hand, he showed up to help. But first and foremost in his life was the love of his children. He referred to them as my little miracles. He was a proud dad, and when I would see the four of them together, whether in Hood River or Texas or Vegas, his whole self was animated with such joy and love. He was so happy, and I loved seeing that. But for reasons I will not get into, his dream of family was thwarted at every turn. Once the children returned to their mother, she would not permit the children to have contact with any of the Halseth family. And I never understood why. Daniel struggled to maintain contact with his children and was successful, even though difficult. When Sierra called her dad and said she was in danger at her mother's house, Dan stopped everything to rescue her. He bought a house in Vegas in the same school district so she could be with her friends. He had hopes that his miracles would come and ride bikes, go camping, and he bought all the stuff to make that happen. He was so excited about his son Jordan's graduation from high school that he never got to see. I am haunted by the description of his death that I read in the papers in relation to his murder at the hands of his own daughter. Where did the evil come that was bred into a soul that murders their own father, stab, drag his lifeless body down the stairs, desecrate a body with a saw in the garage, and then burn him? Was that really laughter in a YouTube video, bragging about what had been done to my son? Why not steal the car, the stupid money, run off to wherever, and leave my son with those that loved him? This barbaric murder has left this family devastated. Medication and counseling does not stop this pain in my heart. He would gladly have given his life for any of his kids, but this, we are confident, Your Honor, and in hopes that you will implement this judgment, which will confine these murderers to countless days and hours behind prison walls, alone and haunted with their own visions of Daniel's final moments and what they did to his poor lifeless body. Every night, I am left with a picture, and it's this picture of bewilderment, seeing his daughter stabbing away his last breath, and with tears in his eyes, looking up at her and asking just one final question: why? Your Honor. And thank you, Aaron.
Your Honor, that concludes the speakers that will be addressing the court this morning.
Okay. Mr. Santos, that's up here in the science, can please stand? All right, we'll start with Ms. Halseth. This is a very, very tragic situation. I wish that there was something that I was going to say, or Ms. Beverly, can you? Sure. I wish that there was something that I was going to say or something that I could do that would stop all the suffering that is going on at the hands of what happened here today. But unfortunately, that's just not what the court can do at this point. So I am going to oppose the sentence that was agreed upon by the parties. Ms. Halseth, in accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, you're going to be adjudicated guilty on count 1, conspiracy to commit murder. Count 2, first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon. Count 3, first-degree arson. Count 4, fraudulent use of a credit or a debit card. Count 5, fraudulent use of a credit or a debit card. Count 6, fraudulent use of a credit or a debit card. Count 7, fraudulent use of a credit or a debit card. Count 8, conspiracy to commit robbery. And count 9, robbery with use of a deadly weapon. In addition to the $25 administrative assessment fee, the $150 DNA testing fee, the $3 DNA assessment fee, you're going to be ordered to pay $2,125 in extradition fees. You're also going to be ordered to pay $5,000 in restitution to victims of crime, and that'll be done jointly and severally with the co-defendant. On count 1, you're going to be sentenced to 48 to 120 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. On count 2, you're going to be sentenced to life in the Nevada Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole after 20 years has been served, plus a consecutive 24 to 60 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections for the deadly weapon enhancement. Count 2 is ordered to run concurrent to count 1. On count 3, you're going to be sentenced to 72 to 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 2. On count 4, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 3. On count 5, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 4. On count 6, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections, and that's ordered to run concurrent to count 5. On count 7, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections, and that's ordered to run concurrent to count 6. On count 8, you're going to be sentenced to 28 to 72 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 7. On count 9, you're going to be sentenced to 72 to 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections, plus a consecutive 72 to 180 months for the deadly weapon enhancement. That is ordered to run concurrent to count 8. You have 555 days credit for time served. That is a total aggregate sentence of life in the Nevada Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole after 22 years has been served. Thank you. Mr. Guerrero, in accordance with the laws of the state of Nevada, you're going to be adjudicated guilty on count 1, conspiracy to commit murder. Count 2, first-degree murder with use of a deadly weapon. Count 3, first-degree arson. Count 4, fraudulent use of a credit or a debit card. Count 5, fraudulent use of a credit or a debit card. Count 6, fraudulent use of a credit or a debit card. Count 7, fraudulent use of a credit or a debit card. Count 8, conspiracy to commit robbery. Count 9, robbery with use of a deadly weapon. In addition to the $25 administrative assessment fee, the $150 DNA testing fee, the $3 DNA assessment fee, you're going to be ordered to pay $2,125 in extradition fees. You're also going to be ordered to pay $5,000 in restitution to victims of crime, and that's going to be ordered jointly and separately with the codependent. On count 1, you're going to be sentenced to 48 to 120 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. On count 2, you're going to be sentenced to life in the Nevada Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole after 20 years has been served, plus a consecutive 24 to 60 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections for a deadly weapon enhancement. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 1. Count 3, you're going to be sentenced to 72 to 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 2. Count 4, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 3. Count 5, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 4. Count 6, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 5. Count 7, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 6. Count 8, you're going to be sentenced to 28 to 72 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 7. Count 9, you're going to be sentenced to 72 to 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections, plus a consecutive 72 to 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections for deadly weapon enhancement. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 8. You have 555 days credit for time served. That is a total aggregate sentence of life in the Nevada Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole after 22 years has been served.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mayor, with regards to Ms. Halseth, she's asking the court if the court can accept the letter that she wrote out.
Yes, if you could approach Mr. Sent through the website, find the letter. All right, thank you. All right, thank you guys. That is not the conclusion of the calendar. I do have another case, which is yours.
Oh, okay.
Lopez?
Oh, yes.
Yes. All right, so that's the conclusion.
Christine Halseth delivering an emotional statement about the murder of her son, Daniel.
You're in a tough spot because your son is the victim and the killer is your granddaughter. Can you talk about that?
She's not my granddaughter. We have found no reports, articles, or evidence backing up Sierra Halseth claims she stated during her sentencing. The tragic death of Daniel Halseth, a loving father and respected member of his community, serves as a stark reminder of the heinous consequences that can result from impulsive, senseless acts of violence. The Sierra Halseth and Aaron Guerrero case illustrates the complex interplay between teenage relationships, social media, and the potential for individuals to commit shocking acts of violence. As we reflect on this case, it's crucial to remember the devastating impact such actions have on families and communities. Daniel Halseth's death left a profound void in the lives of those who knew and loved him. The shockwaves from this tragedy will continue to reverberate for years to come.